What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, we are back with another preview / prediction video. And today, we are here with the divisional round preview, man. Oh my goodness. It kind of sounds crazy to say out loud, but if I would have told you week 1 this season, hey, just wait. Later this year, we're about to do a preview video for the divisional round for a chance to play in the NFC Championship game. And guess what? That could be at home. It'd be crazy, but it could be. We'd all take it, man. This is amazing. I dove into this game. I feel like I definitely overthought a lot of things here, but you know what? It's the playoffs. What else do you expect? I want to get a prediction right. Might do it this week. Probably might, but we might, so stay tuned to the end. Let's get into it. Lions, Buccaneers in Ford Field for a chance to go to the NFC Championship. Let's get it started. Welcome, Reddit channel video. Glad you guys are here. And yes, man, we are back with another preview / prediction video. I love doing these videos. I just want to hit one of these scores right, man. But I feel good about this week. Plus, we have some big time injury news that we're going to start off with first. Now, depending on when you're watching this, good chance you're seeing this on Friday and you already know about this news, or maybe you're seeing updates to the practice report that are not in this video. That's just, I guess that's how time works. You guys know why that would be the case. However, I do want to start there first, and then we'll get into the preview / prediction side, similar to what we did with the Rams video this last week, but I want it to be better, and I think it will be better. So let's get right into it. Start off on the Buccaneers side. We have Shaq Barrett. That's a big one. It's one of the best players defensively. Incredible athlete. Plays outside linebacker for this team, and he had no participation in the last 2 days. Now, the positive for them is they have good depth. All right, they have a former first-round pick in Joe Tryon-Shoyinka that can also step into that position. Yaya Diaby improved to limited participation. He's been a huge part of the defense. Statistically, he's been a monster this season. So Shaq Barrett would be a big one. It's definitely something to keep an eye on. The positive is they have pretty good depth there as well. At receiver, Chris Godwin, another key one. Limited participation, though, today. That is an improvement after yesterday. From what I understand, it was kind of like a walkthrough practice today for Tampa Bay, so just kind of keep that in mind. But when you watch this Tampa Bay offense, to me, it really hasn't been Chris Godwin that's taken off and that's made this offense look really solid. These last few weeks look really good, in my opinion. It's been actually Cade Otton. But when you throw Cade Otton with Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, who's just one of the best at getting open in the NFL, you got a tough matchup there on your hands. So it'd be big to have him healthy. Chase Edmonds, their backup running back, no participation in the last few days. We'll keep an eye on that. It could be a guy like Sean Tucker potentially that gets some snaps there. They still do, of course, have their number 1, Rachaad White. And then finally, Baker Mayfield, but he's full. The dude's going to play. All right, the guy's going to play. Now onto the Lions side, here's the big news. Let's just start with it. James Houston has been activated off of IR and has been added to the Lions roster. That's right. James Houston's probably going to play this weekend. Now, to make space for James Houston, the Detroit Lions also waived Julian Okwara. I mean, this has to be tough for a guy like Romeo as well. If you're a little bit surprised by this, I wouldn't say be too surprised because he was on the final year of his contract. Maybe the Lions could have went with like Charles Harris over Julian Okwara, but Charles Harris is also a guy that they love, the veteran leadership. They're both on the final year of their contracts, so this feels like it just kind of ends it a little bit early here. We'll keep an eye on what happens with Julian going forward. Definitely wishing him the best of luck, but for now, James Houston is up. Lions had this decision looming, so they were going to have to make this decision regardless, and they decided to do it. So, again, full participation for the first 2 days of the week. For James Houston, he had full participation all last week. I don't know for sure if he'll play, but it definitely seems like a positive, and that there's a chance we get him in some fashion this weekend. And this is what we've had to be patient for. It's like, hey, just wait. But he may get out there. And like James Houston says, man, he looks at himself as a playmaker. He just wants to go out there and help in any way he can. And also, like Aiden Hutchinson said, I don't know how many snaps he'll get, but it'll be good to have him back. And we know, even if just like a few snaps, if we can get him into some third and long spots, especially against this team that I think struggles a little bit with speed and also a lot of movement defensively, and particularly up front, picking up pass protection, James Houston is a problem. Plus, we know he can drop and do all those flexible things, so he makes it difficult to match up with. On top of that, Brian Branch, full participation. Reason why I think that's worth pointing out is because last time we played this team, it was Will Harris out there. And look, man, I like Will Harris, but he felt like someone that they kind of went at a few times in that game. Brian Branch being healthy, definitely going to change things up a little bit in this one. Trey Palmer, they have some exciting electric receivers specifically that they can put, and they put a lot of guys in different spots offensively. But a guy like Brian Branch, huge boost to this team heading into this game. Alex Anzalone, he's massive. He was just big in the last game, stopping the run. He's also going to be impactful in coverage, especially in the zone coverage, the flats. He made some big-time impact plays last time we played this team, but he's pretty much big in every single game. But it's always great to have Alex Anzalone out there. We know he's a little bit shaken up last week, but he stayed on the field. Kirby Joseph, full participation last 2 days. Again, the safety position, we've seen a lot of Iffy, and now also CD Deuce. But Kirby Joseph, big part, once again, last time we played this team, man. Made some big, crucial plays for us, specifically in zone coverage. So whoever is out there at safety, those guys are going to be in the mix all the time. We'll talk about that in the preview, but it's big that he's healthy in this one. Sam Laporta. Now, this one's maybe a little bit concerning. Limited participation today for Sam Laporta, so I guess that's something to keep an eye on. Obviously, the Lions would love to have him, and like Ben Johnson said, like his statistical production didn't jump off the screen in this last game, but man, he was still impactful. I still scored a touchdown for us, still beat coverage one-on-one, still picked up 4 yards, which was enough to set up a field goal attempt for Michael Badgley. And I think in this game, again, if you have him more healthy than last week, you utilize him even a little bit more in the offense, this is one of those teams with all the complexity that they add in the back end, specifically in coverage. This is where being able to play heavy personnel is your best friend. I know they would love to have him this week. Plus, he's just a difference maker. I mean, against everybody. Now, this was a fun back and forth last time we saw these two teams go at it between Sam Laporta, young Sam Laporta, just up 6 games into the season, right? Week 6 versus a Levante David. So it's another fun matchup that could potentially be on the way once again. Frank Ragnow, good news here. Full participation today, out with rest yesterday. Khalif Raymond, still no participation, so we'll likely again continue to see Donovan Peoples-Jones back there. And then finally, Brock Wright, full participation last 2 days, so he should be good to go. Again, it's really just about Sam Laporta here. But James Houston is back. You guys know I'm excited about that. I know you are too, so we had to start with that. Now, with that being said, let's dive into this. So I want to start off with the Lions defensively first in this game, because I think when you first just look at the score of the last game, you say 20-6, you're super confident, like, man, they can't score. This is going to be easy in this one. I'll be honest, I kind of feel like that a little bit too. Like, I kind of felt like that a little bit too. But when you start to really dive into Tampa Bay, just like Baker Mayfield pointed out, they feel like they're a much different team. And I think when you do watch them, they are a different team. There's some stylistic changes that I noticed from last time we played this team. One in particular would be a lot more shotgun usage, a lot of pistol, kind of playing what it feels like when he was back in college, right? Spread everybody out, get to see the entire field, make decisions. We know that he's a playmaker off schedule. He's pretty darn accurate as well, and he's elite between the numbers. So it feels like you've seen some of those tweaks in their offense. There's obviously been other nuances added to it as well, but I think when you watch them over the last few weeks, man, I mean, there's times where they don't look extremely impressive, like Carolina. I thought Carolina obviously did a really nice job against them. Over the last few weeks, it definitely has felt like they've done pretty well offensively. We know the run game hasn't really been there statistically for a lot of this season. However, when you watch Baker Mayfield, his decision-making, he's very decisive. He can get a lot of answers pre-snap, and you find success with that. Plus, they just have playmakers. Like, it's tough to play one-on-one with this team, and that's part of the things that I thought Carolina did well against Tampa Bay, is that they were able to play one-on-one on the outside. J.C. Horn, they were able to line up one-on-one, take those 3-by-1 sets that Tampa Bay wanted to throw out there, and they were able to win a lot of those one-on-ones as well. I didn't think a lot of times it was about doing anything super fancy. It was just, man, they were really sound. Underneath coverage was on point, man. They were jumping routes underneath. They would sit in cover 3. They would win one-on-ones. Their safeties were very quick to recognize and read it. So it didn't take like craziness for, I thought, Carolina to be successful against this Tampa Bay team. But the point is that with Baker's decisiveness and his pre-snap indicators, they can be pretty difficult if you're not sound really across the board defensively against this offense. And obviously you want to create turnovers, because that was a huge difference last time we played this team. I think this play is a great example of this Buccaneers offense. You can see the Carolina Panthers are going to roll down their safety, and as soon as Baker reads that, he sees the one-on-one they created by the 3-by-1 look offensively, and he takes that shot. He doesn't even recognize that the running back is completely uncovered on this play, but he's decisive. He wants to get the ball out, and he just trusts his guys to go win one-on-one. But where Carolina did well is that they covered up the one-on-ones well. So even though he's decided to get the ball out, they covered it up well, and they forced him beyond the immediate, like, hey, just put the ball out there. They weren't winning, though. This one, their rushing attack isn't the most scary thing for me as a Lions fan. Now, with that being said, it really starts with the offensive line, and they got some good pieces. Tristan Wirfs is really good. We talked about this last time. Luke Gadecki, a right tackle, he's really solid as well, so they can hit some of their runs set up behind those guys in particular, especially when they go to some of their zone rushing. But in the interior, I think they have real questions from left guard, center to right guard, run blocking consistency. So the first thing that I point out there is that outside zone rushing attack. And they tend to do a lot of weak side, outside zone rushing, putting that tackle one-on-one. In a case like this, right, you have to have that discipline. You're going to slant inside. You got to be able to keep that edge contained. Because while they had different styles versus different teams, like Philadelphia, for example, I started to see a little bit more of that dual run scheme. Like, hey, let's double team Milton Williams and try to move him off the point of attack. It's like, okay, that makes sense. Or Jacksonville, when you start to see some of the interior rushing attack inside zone, or you start to see a little more of the gap scheme towards the interior. Like, there seems to be a pretty nice mix with them offensively, but a lot of it usually came back to we want to utilize the outside zone rushing attack. Now, their running back, I think, is very talented. He can make guys miss, and because of that, the real key to me doesn't doesn't come on the front side because I expect us to have a lot of success there at the point of attack, especially against these guards. We have to dominate that matchup on paper. You just have to. You have to win that more often than not. Aleem McNeil, he's been huge. He's been able to play nose tackle for us. He's been massive. You have to be able to win that matchup. Levi on Zarike, but the key to me comes on the backside. It's the ability on the backside to not allow big cutback lanes to kind of pop open. We saw it at times against Tampa Bay last time. For the most part, we had a lot of good, but it's the John Kaminsky's. It's when they go heavy personnel or they lighten the box, whatever it may be. It's always the backside that seems to be crucial, right? Whether that's Levi when he kind of got cut block and he was way behind on the play. That's where the runs seem to pop. So that's really what I'm focused on in this one. Again, I think their dual rushing scheme will have success there because we had success there this last week against the LA Rams, so I think we'll be fine there as well. Tyson Alualu made some good plays there. I really like our matchup against this rushing offense. The other thing to keep an eye on is specifically second and long, or when they're expecting two high safety looks. That's to keep an eye on a lot of the jet touch pass or the end arounds. They like to utilize the receivers in the run game. Like I said, they have very dynamic pieces with the ball in their hands, and they'll give it to different players, but Trey Palmer, I mean, they got guys that can really run once the ball gets in their hands, so that's the other thing to keep an eye on. But again, I really have a lot of confidence there because I don't really have a reason to not have confidence. It's more of a schematic thing, like if you're too deep, oh, they're going to try to get you there, but I have confidence in our linebackers and our cornerbacks and the safety run support that we've really had all season long. One thing I keep an eye on is the Lions to potentially mix up some front looks in this game, maybe give some under front looks, try to open up some of the slot blitzing. We know that's been a massive part of their run defense this season is schematically their aggressiveness to be able to shut down some runs. Now, where Tampa Bay is difficult is that they do have some designs to kind of play off of that bootlegs. They went out in the gun. What we saw last time we played them, a lot of the RPO became an issue. That's where, honestly, a lot of their chunks came from was RPO. Now, we adjusted to that. We had to change things schematically. But, you know, some of that different front looks, under front looks, trying to get an opportunity to blitz off the backside against this team at times. Now, they also utilize some counter runs as well, and what we saw in the Lions game was the linebacker position and also the edge defenders taking on these lead blocks. But I would also keep in mind, I think the biggest challenge is going to be the one-on-one with tackles that they're trying to create, whether that's Hutchinson or the Pascals or John Kaminsky's, Romeo Okora's. Those are the matchups that they're going to try to create, get those one-on-ones there and work off of those players. I think that's their toughest matchup at the point of attack. Ideally, I think when I look at this team, you know, I like to keep two safeties over top. If you can keep two safeties over top, first off, just the numbers kind of bear that out. Mike Evans one-on-one is a problem. Now, if we can sit there and, you know, I can trust, hey, cover three, we're going to be fine. We're going to be fine one-on-one on the outside. Awesome. Like, that would be great if you can continue to play that. And when they went heavy personnel last time we played them, we played a lot of cover three. But I've seen a lot more spreading teams out recently, and it can be a little more difficult at times to do that. Now, Carolina played it really well. Their cornerbacks handled the one-on-ones. When they try to go 3-by-1, isolate someone on the backside, they handled that. So, again, that's a fine coverage, but they're just going to put a lot of emphasis on Kendall Vilder, which is a different matchup piece now. But then also Cam Sutton, of course. So they're going to try to look at that, especially on 3rd and long. But the one thing that I keep an eye out for this one, because in that last game, especially when they would spread us out, a lot of cover six, a lot of quarters coverage from Aaron Glenn, is you got that RPO action. And that was the changer because the Lions did a nice job saying, hey, you're not going to get shots. The next thing would be, okay, can you get into the flat? And then it was like, hey, our linebackers are slots. They got to be very fast to get out there. So then the final key, and this was the wrinkle that Tampa Bay started utilizing, the Lions had to adjust to it, was, man, can you deal with the RPO now? Because your slot's starting to creep in. Boom, we're just going to fake that. We're going to hit it right up the seam, and we're going to give a big chunk play because our safeties are deep, and there's no one now in the slot to occupy that. Maybe they'll stack it up. So for the Lions, one of the adjustments I thought they had to make was they had to stop putting a linebacker on the line of scrimmage. They had to start putting and making sure they had off-ball linebackers not on the line of scrimmage. They had to keep them off the ball. That way they could have a player in that area. That way the slot could keep a little bit more depth, and Baker Mayfield would pull the pass down, and he wasn't getting such easy RPO looks when Jack Campbell would be on the line of scrimmage, and it was like, here you go, just flip it right over top of him. Like, once that took place, the Lions were able to kind of slow down some of those RPO looks that they gave offensively. So it was a little bit of a back and forth. Probably will be something to keep an eye on in this game to see how that kind of plays out as we go through in this one, but it was a killer last time we played this team. Have the odds changed? Okay, I want to jump in here real quick to give a shout out to our partner for this NFL season. That is BetUS, man. Use that top link in the description. You deposit at least $100, you get 125% match up to $2,500, and they're giving away 2 Super Bowl tickets, man. You still got time to get involved in this giveaway, man. I'll show the video up on the screen right now. You still have an opportunity to get into this giveaway to potentially win 2 Super Bowl tickets, and as you can see on the screen, they currently have the Detroit Lions Lions at plus 300 to win the NFC conference. And of course, if the Lions do that, they win their next 2 playoff games, they're in the Super Bowl. So wouldn't you want to give yourself an opportunity to potentially win 2 Super Bowl tickets and watch the Lions play live? There's a chance. So make sure that you follow those rules. Give yourself a chance. If you're already doing sports betting, you might as well do it with BetUS, because then you can get yourself involved in that potential opportunity to win those 2 Super Bowl tickets. Now, with that being said, man, did y'all like the little short? Y'all liked the little short. I think y'all liked it, man. The little lose yourself short. It was fire. Shout out to BetUS for that, man. They put that thing together, and that thing was sweet. As you can see over here, man, we're on the BetUS website. On the left of the screen, you can see that even though it's all about football right now, it still is basketball season. And on the left, man, you can get into all the sports betting action that you want. Basketball, football, ice hockey, baseball, man. They have so many options here on the left side of the screen. Of course, as well, you can get into the sports book like I usually am, but there's also the casino, the race book. There's promotions to dive into. And if you start making bets with BetUS, you'll be thrown into their loyalty program, man. All you got to do is start making bets, and you'll get some awesome perks that come with it. Now, scroll down to this Lions game. Right now, they currently have us at this time of recording at a 6.5 point favorite for this game. So you have your point spread, your money line, your totals, your team totals, but then you also have your markets. Go over here towards the game props like this, as always, and then I can put together kind of a parlay ticket. I could build it out, maybe over under passing yards, maybe I'll throw in over under sacks, but a little parlay ticket that we usually do each week. And of course, they also have their pre-built parlays that you can get involved in as well. And as you see on the right side here, the bet slip that you can put together. So if you're into sports betting, man, use BetUS. Give yourself a chance to potentially win some Super Bowl tickets, man. They also have tons of other options here as well. If you want to support this channel, that's a great way to do it, because they are supporting me through this NFL season, man. Want to appreciate and shout out BetUS. Use that top link in the description, and let's get back to the video. You know, statistically speaking, it's actually better to not blitz Baker Mayfield, or if you're looking at it from where is he most successful, like I said, between the numbers, intermediate passes, he's very accurate there, man. He just hits his guys, and that's the thing on schedule, man. Baker Mayfield is a very accurate passer. Like, he really is. There's a reason that he was the top pick in the draft. But what I want to see from this team, so obviously if I said, man, we could just play man a lot of this game, we were just really good at man coverage, I'd be like, that's great. That's an awesome strategy to utilize. The issue is where that's cover 1 or that's cover 3, the one-on-ones with Mike Evans without help is where he's been elite this season. So what do I want to see for the Lions? Well, one thing just in general that I want to see the Lions is move pieces at the snap. Now, I know we talk about this a lot, like, hey, move the safety at the snap. But for me, it's specifically change the middle field picture that Baker Mayfield is getting, whether that's dropping out a DT into coverage or bringing a linebacker, dropping out an edge into coverage. Like, those little things are, I think, where you need to change the looks for Baker Mayfield specifically. And I think you'll see the most success with movement, specifically on obvious pass downs where they don't have the run game threat, or he has to get the ball beyond 5 yards specifically. And that's where you start to get maybe the blitz looks that drop into the middle of the field. It's really about just taking away the middle of the field and changing that picture on third down / pass down. See, what this offense does to me so well is that they do a nice job of kind of give Baker Mayfield answers pre-snap. And what that comes down to a lot of times is by the motion that they utilize, right? They can kind of confirm what they're looking at. And then on early downs, they can pass the football. They can spread you out. They can attack off coverage. If Baker recognizes it pre-snap, he does a lot of things based on what he sees pre-snap. So the best thing that I think you can do is for him is really try to change the picture specifically as much as possible on the interior. If he's going to live in, we want to spread you out defensively. Change that picture up. Defensive tackle dropping, linebacker blitz, edge drop. Just shift some things there. Now, rolling safeties can be a part of that, but again, a lot of times they do a nice job with their motion and forcing you to kind of tip your hand and show, oh, nope, this is cover 3. Great. We're going to have that one-on-one to the outside. That's what they do a really nice job of. Now, again, it's not all about being the most crafty against this offense because, like I said, Carolina didn't feel like, man, they're just throwing them off. They don't know what to expect. They were just really sound. They were really sound underneath coverage, taking away the tight ends, the quick little, spot routes that he would look for, the quick little out routes.
See on a play like this from Carolina, again, there's not a lot of movement that's going on here. They go to cover 3, but you see how aggressively Troy Hill takes away the flat. He aggressively takes it away. Then he has to get to read number 2, and that's that little hitch route that they run underneath to the tight end, and a linebacker undercuts that. So it's just aggressively getting to your spots. Didn't have to be super fancy, but man, they were playing fat.
One-on-one, and even if they knew that matchup was there, Carolina covered it up. They covered it up really well. The one thing I would say is this, and this feels like a spot that you can still probably jump something, is when you get them and you tell them it's one-on-one on the outside, it's the ability, you tell them it's single high safety, it's the ability to potentially try to undercut one of these speed out routes, right? One of those quick out routes that they try to hit. And I think that's going to be there. And that's mainly going to be there, maybe not from the outside corner as much as it will be from the flat defender, just racing to undercut that route. I still get a sense that Brian Branch, someone like that, could be in a spot at some point or another to just take advantage of that if you just keep seeing it over and over. Maybe that's CD Dukes rolling down from safety. I know there was some crap talk going back and forth. Someone is going to undercut one of those routes, and I do feel like that's an opportunity to just take advantage. I just see it over and over. I just think based on what Baker sees pre-snap, that's the best way to do it. And that's also where you get him to go to his second read. That's where sometimes you can get him to throw it, or at other times he's smart and he'll scramble with it. But that's where you change things up. Is change it in the middle field, give him something different at the snap, and then you can get him away from that first read. And if you get him past his first read, I know this is the case with a lot of guys, but you do it with Baker, you're in a lot of success. You have a lot of success because he is so good at 1, 2, 3, boom, balls out because of what I read pre-snap. So to me, it's so key to just try to get him past that first read as much as possible. The advantage of playing man coverage of this one specifically comes from their play action attack. They do a nice job of pulling offensive linemen to really try to pull your linebackers down. So if you are just able to play man coverage, then you do a nice job with that. Now, a couple things I would keep an eye on. Again, we talked about the 3-by-1 looks. They want to get one-on-ones. One thing the Lions did, and every team has honestly done, is they've done a nice job of bracketing in, specifically if that one-on-one is a guy like Mike Evans. And way they've done that through man coverage, like, hey, outside corner, you have it. If he starts to break that kind of dig route, because they love that against man coverage, safety step down, you take that, you pass it off corner, now becomes in zone. That kind of thing is something that I expect to see. Those little kind of wrinkles is something that I would expect to see again in this one because we saw the Lions already do it once. Third down situations, here's kind of what I'm expecting. Last time we saw Tampa Bay, right, we know the Lions in 3rd and long, for example, they love to play cover 3 defense. And what we saw for Tampa Bay, some of their answers, and I've seen this against a lot of teams, like I said, against man covers, they love to run dig routes. b.godl has become kind of that piece for them. Is like, yeah, he's a matchup piece, now they're tight end. But also, if it's going to be cover 3 defense, they're going to try to utilize a lot of deep curl routes. Of course, they'll attack the seams as well. b.godl has been huge there because he's been able to get chunk plays, but they'll also run a lot of curl routes at the sticks. And now all of a sudden, the emphasis goes to linebacker depth, finding routes in coverage, but also at the same time, safeties as well. Rolling the safety down, him finding the routes, being able to step in a spot where it's long so you know that's a further pass. Came to kind of the more 3rd down medium situations. I do like playing man coverage against this team. Again, my emphasis goes to taking away middle of the field, making them consistently try to win outside the numbers because of the route tree they like. We talked about kind of passing that off between the outside, but in 3rd and medium spots, again, Will Harris seemed like the guy they kind of came in and said, let's see if we can go on and go at this guy a little bit, see if we can get matchups there because we know they're playing man coverage, and that makes sense. Now with Brian Branch in, I expect them to try to look elsewhere for that matchup. To b.godl, maybe that's more of an outside receiver attack, but usually they do a nice job of trying to pick up those matchups at the snap and find what they want to take advantage of. One thing I would like to do, especially in some of those medium spots, get some cover 0 looks, right? Show that you're bringing everything at Baker Mayfield and then dropping out at the snap. I think it's one of the most successful things that you can do against this team if you really want to try to throw them off, is show cover 0, drop out of it. At the same time, it gives their offensive line pass protection issues as well by just overloading a side of the field. On 3rd and short situations, it's kind of the same thing. Protect between the numbers, but specifically to me, b.godl and then becomes the key. And we're going to see him on Alex Anzalone probably a lot in this game, especially on 3rd and short. You'll see it a lot on 3rd and short, kind of their run fake, boot action, flats. That's a place that they love to attack, especially if we're playing 2 high safeties flats. So not only are those guys going to be tested in zone coverage, but also man coverage, like, hey, go pick that up. And then at the same time, again, if the Lions in this game, they're seeing a lot of that heavy personnel, you're seeing a lot of cover 3, the emphasis goes onto the safety position. It's taking away the crossing routes, not giving them those, communicating in the back end. Cam Sutton, last time it was Jerry Jacobs, that'll be Vilder. Communication's got to be on point, man. This is an offense that if they keep getting the same look over and over, they do a nice job of finding ways to beat that coverage.
Perfect example would be if you watch the Jacksonville game, they threw like 5 straight screen passes because of the alignments of the corners over and over and over. In the defense, they just kept throwing screens. They were just like, fine, that's what you're going to give us. We're going to keep going there. And that's what Tampa Bay does well. They read it. They see your off coverage. They're going to attack it. So I think for the Lions, there's either 2 things. Number 1, kind of like this play here, Carolina, you have to be aggressively taking away your zones, aggressively take the outside flat, aggressively take these underneath the routes. You have to aggressively play the eyes of the quarterback, but also your zones. You can't kind of float over there and let him hit these quick little tight window throws. You aggressively take it away, force him away from it. Or 2, change the alignments of your corners. We talked about this last time we played Tampa, whether that's showing press, then dropping out to off man, right, bailing, or that's showing off man, then at the snap rolling down and pressing up, or that's inverting some of those coverage looks. That way all of a sudden they can dive down, you can drop out. Whatever that may be, the Lions need to either change their alignments to me consistently on the outside, or you have to aggressively take things away from those level 2 defenders, linebackers, slot corners, safeties at times. Aggressively get in your zones, man. They got to have an excellent feel in this game. One of the 2 things.
So shaking things up during the game will be huge, but to me it'll be as well just giving occasionally different looks at the line, but specifically just being really good in coverage. I mean, that's what it seems to come down to. When things are successful, safety spacing is good, finding the crossing routes good, communication's good, underneath coverage is on point, rather than consistently just throwing off what the heck Baker Mayfield is saying. It's more about just being very sound in the back end. For example, if you're going to play that quarters coverage, that's fine, but But what is Baker going to do? Man, he's going to get a tell of it, and when he does, he's going to try to take between the cornerback and the safety, passing it off. So again, safety emphasis. Find that route. You have to find that in-breaking route in those spots. Now, finally, when they go to some of those empty looks offensively, and we may see a lot more of this time around, that 3x2 look specifically, right? They spread it out. They go empty, 5 wide. In this game, what I would look for the Lions is specifically a couple coverages that I like. Number one was the combo coverage. We don't see this a ton, but we saw it against Chicago in the past. Eric Glenn has done this before, but it's where one side plays man, the other side plays zone. That's one of the best ways I thought that Carolina kind of threw some confusion is by playing man/zone. I think that's a really good thing that you can look to do in this game is mix in some combo coverage. Cover 6, Tampa 2 was huge. Every time they went empty against us, a lot of times Aaron Glenn would say, let's go Tampa 2, and then the matchup became linebackers on kind of the slots. Anybody that was playing kind of those level 1 routes, that's where Baker Mayfield really wanted to attack because the middle field was kind of taken away. The outside was backing it in, so he really looked to those underneath matchups. So again, that's going to be your Alex Anzalone. If it's heavy personnel, it's going to be the Barnes, it's going to be Jalen, but it could also be Brian Branch. That is the spot the Lions went to a lot against those empty looks was Tampa 2 defensively. So I really circle some of those underneath defenders.
So I do expect that we're probably not going to see a lot of craziness schematically defensively in this one, but probably more so the emphasis on, okay, let's kind of keep it simple. We just have to play really fast defensively and try to play that way. That's what it seemed like they did in week 1 or week 6, I should say, last time they played this team. And you can see here like Philadelphia, I'll talk about this a little bit in a second. The one time I do really like rolling safeties though is on third medium plus, because one thing they do well, again, if they know what coverage you're going to live in, so we like to play cover 1 and we like to play cover 3 on third down. If it's medium, it's cover 1. If it's long, it's cover 3. Because of that, if it's a medium spot, they're probably going to try to run a lot of pick plays and set it up. And that's where one of their touchdowns came against Philly on the crossing route. Even this play here that doesn't get off, they try to set kind of a pick play for the running back to wheel out of the backfield. They're very smart schematically. So the one thing I think you can do if you're going to play man, if you're going to live on what you do, is really try to sell the rotation of your safeties. And I think the Lions did that pretty well last time they played Tampa, just so they couldn't create easy pick plays with matchups.
Once again, to the red zone. Again, I like playing man coverage here. The safety will a lot of times probably go to help Mike Evans. So again, it's going to be the matchup of who has K-Dot and then the spot. Finally, creating pressure against this team. Like I said, I do think the Lions can create pressure here. I think when you look at kind of their left guard position there with Aaron, I think you look at a guy that can get bull rush, man, a guy that can be driven back. That's where I look at having success there. A guy like Cody Mao, I don't think he's a very good run blocker, but I also think he has issues with speed as well. He's a little bit high cut there in the interior. I think they have speed issues regardless dealing with interior. So I think any way that you can kind of bring speed in the inside with some stunts and movements that you can do, looping guys around towards the inside, but specifically overloading sides, they are questionable, I think, in picking up and pass protection. Now, the running back, Rachaad White, he's pretty good. But I think if you're going to bring linebackers, drop out edge, that's fine. I think occasionally you'll get some wins there with them just not picking it up, being late to pick up some of that speed towards the interior. So that's what I'm looking at for the defensive side of the ball. Now, the offensive side of the ball, this is where the Lions, they're probably going to need some help, I think, to put up a lot of points in this game. They're going to have defensive turnovers, short fields, because this is a good defense by Tampa Bay. I mean, they're just sound defensively. Right now, we're also seeing Zion McCollum playing at safety alongside Winfield, and Winfield's a very good safety, has a really good sense for play action shot depth. I mean, he's a guy that takes things away, can play center field, so they have just really good players across the board. Right now, at cornerback, we're seeing Dean at cornerback, Vig, physical, has some long speed. We're also seeing in the slot, we're still seeing Christian, who matched up with St. Brown last time. St. Brown had some big numbers, but he's not a bad slot corner. Opposite of that, right now, we've seen a lot of Carlton Davis. So right now, they just have really solid pieces in the back end, tied along with some elite linebacker play between Levante David. Again, the edge rushers are flexible in coverage as well. And then on the defensive front, man, they have pressure pieces. I think, at times they can be hit and miss against the run. Certain players can, but they do have pressure pieces, especially with Kalijah Cansey come along with Vita Vea. They can get interior push. They have edge rusher with tons of speed. Yaya Diaby. I mean, if Shaq Barrett plays, tons of edge defender speed. So this is a tricky defense because they're really good against the run, and then they have pressure pieces, and they're so multiple in the back end with their safety positions. They'll play cloud coverage, they'll invert coverage, that you don't really know where things are going to go at the snap. So I thought for the Lions, man, one of the biggest keys, just to say in the pass game in general, is their best friend is going to be trying to limit what coverage they're going to get. So one thing is similar to the Rams game, passing on early downs, right? Trying to avoid third and long. That way you can kind of try to simplify what type of coverage that you're going to get. Second thing, and especially to the pass rush situation as well, though I feel good with the Lions having having a healthy offensive line, I feel pretty good about that. Second thing would be heavy personnel. Another way to kind of limit at times what a team can do in coverage just because of who they're going to actually rotate. You can still get safety rotation, and again, they can still go cloud or they can still invert their coverage, but more tight ends on the field can limit what they want to do. And I thought for the Lions, it was spreading it out early. It was, hey, when we go 2x2, we're getting a lot of quarters look, right? Trying to dictate that early. Hey, when we go 3x1, we're getting a lot of cover 3, right? So let's have beaters for that. I thought for the Lions, it was about that. It was doing their best that they could to try to limit all the movement that would take place in the back end. And then pass pro's got to be on point to give Goff time to really just take an advantage of trying to see what is taking place. Now, for this offense, starting off with the rushing attack, it was pretty much just not there at all last time we played Tampa Bay, but there was a couple of key differences in terms of personnel. Number one, Jonah Jackson wasn't playing. It was KO'd at left guard, and I like KO'd, but I do think having Jonah Jackson back is going to be massive, especially for the zone rushing scheme and his athleticism that he brings. Secondly, a big one, Jahmyr Gibbs did not play. This, to me, would have been the games to have Jahmyr Gibbs. One of the teams that I thought had a lot of success, two teams at times, Alvin Kamara and it was Chuba Hubbard. It was Carolina and it was New Orleans. Two teams that I thought found success in their own right to be able to run against this defense. And having the ability to have a dynamic piece that could just get to the edge specifically was huge. Against this team, they have a really good linebacker play. They're fast flowing. They recognize things very quickly, and it's difficult to get up on the second level and block these guys, especially in some of that gap scheme. It's difficult to get up and pick up some of these matchups and be able to just block these guys to the second level. For the Lions, it came to some of their outside zone rushing attack against this team, which a lot of times has been their staple. The first thing I would say is, number one, run away from Vita Vea. I mean, he just destroys things, and as much as I love Frank and I like the interior piece we have, Vita Vea is just a game wrecker in the interior. I think you can attack Greg Gaines, but number one, it's the speed to be able to get to the outside, whether that's the sweep plays or the counters or the stretch plays. You have to have speed to be able to get to the edge against this team, because unless you're putting a guy that's assigned to just seal up the backside against their edge, those guys were just tracking us down left and right.
Now, the strength of this run defense is right in the interior. That's where their best pieces are against the run. And you can see for the Lions, I mean, in this game, they even at one point put Khalif Raymond at running back and gave him the football. But you can see a couple things. First off, you want to stretch them out, you got to get up to the second level. Here, like Graham Glasgow, you can't be stuck on the first level. You have to get to the second level, because if it's forced to stretch wider, it's a wrap on the play. But then also, again, that speed off the backside, that's what the Lions need in this one, is a guy like Jahmyr Gibbs that can get to the edge.
And when we want to bring a tight end, like, hey, let's double team their edge. Let's move that guy. Well, we feel like we can do that. And we did. But the backside would shut the run play down. It was like we had absolutely no chance. And if Vita Vea did anything on the front side, it was like, okay, now we really have no chance. They were just shutting down runs from the backside, and it kind of took away a lot of our outside rushing element in that game because we couldn't get there. And that's where Jahmyr Gibbs, to me, he becomes dynamic in this game. Plus, when they'll occasionally bring a cornerback or a slot blitz, and you're like, oh, now they're going to slant that front, someone that can make someone miss immediately, that's Jahmyr Gibbs. To me, this is Jahmyr Gibbs territory written all over it. He is the key difference in finding a running tack versus not having one last time, in my opinion, is going to be that guy. Now, I think there's different ways to attack them. Inside zone, one of the ways Carolina did, and they kind of slam down their offensive line and they run behind it, right? They try to move you out and then they run through it. So they try to utilize their tight ends, crash down those edge defenders, and then they run behind that. I think that's a way to do it, right? Instead of trying to just get moving on Vea, crash down, run off of that. You can move guys like Golston and Kalijah Cansey. Now, they're quick, right, and they can get quick wins, but I think if you get their hands on them, you can move those guys off the point of attack. Or edge defenders, they want to get upfield. So I do like some of the counter rushing. I do like some of the wide rushing scheme, right? If that's a pin pull, or if that's a zone counter, or if that's a counter pull rush, I do like that because it can force the linebackers to take a second. It can kind of slow down how fast they get downhill, but at the same time, the edge defenders want to get upfield, so now you can take advantage of that. You just have to have a guy that can actually get out there, and to me, that's where Gibbs becomes impactful. I don't expect the Lions to be great rushing the football in this game. They just have to have some type of run game. I understand last time they didn't have it, and it was like, hey, it was fine. Goff had a really good game, and he did. But at the same time, that's not where you want to live. You don't want to live in that area. You don't want to live with really no run game at all against this defense. It was great, but you don't want to count on that over and over and just say, hey, we're just not going to have mistakes, because you probably will against a defense like this at some point. You got to find some sort of run game to help out your quarterback. Lions have to find some, even though it's not going to be great, just something to respect. Occasionally, just have a successful run.
Now, when you look at Tampa Bay statistically, they're not great on third down. And the Lions picked up some third and longs. They had the Amon-Ra St. Brown touchdown was the third and long, which was a stack they created, run after catch, and he just ran into the end zone. Or even a play like this where they were doing a really nice job of taking what Tampa Bay normally does on third down and being able to create openings and then picking up in pass protection. They were just doing really well schematically passing the football. And you usually trust that with Ben. But you want to find a run game, because third and long all day, even though they're not great there, not the place to live.
Right, when they go to some of their bare their front looks, right? They go 3-tech, 0 technique, 3 technique. I expect to see some of the counter pull rushing attack from the Lions in this one. I love the sweep counters, right? I love getting to the edge. I think it's the best way to kind of slow down their linebackers, crash down some of these edge defenders, but that's really the key is can you get up to the second level? I love the toss. I love the sweeps. The tight ends become key at the point of attack, right? Can they seal down their edge defenders? That's been a key in a lot of times. If we can, usually good things happen. We can't, like against Micah, usually bad things happen, and we have negative runs, right? Can you seal down a Logan Hall on the edge off the strong side, right? Can you get up to the second level? But the backside speed to me was the difference in that one. So just find some sort of run game. Now, in terms of the passing attack, it depends on who you watch. I mean, they really do come in with different plans against everybody, but they are a team that we know that likes to blitz. That's not going to change. However they do it, they're going to want to blitz you. So to me, you know, when I first started watching them, it was like, okay, cover 3 and cover 0 is literally all they're playing against this team. That's just what they did on early downs. Me in this one, I would anticipate look for some screens, especially receiver screens. First off, again, getting a sense of early downs 2x2, 3x1. What are they probably going to play? But number 2, on top of that is when we go 3x1, let's dictate. Can we throw screens off of this, right? Are they lighter on one side of the field? Part I thought for the Lions was alignment. It was bunching it up, showing 3x1 sets, running screens off it. It was stacking up receivers, being able to kind of get a tell like, oh, they're going to play cover 2 on this side, and it's cover 6, but they're going to play cover 2 over here. Can we kind of run like a 2-man concept here? For the Lions, it was doing everything they could to kind of simplify things. Third downs, we're going to see a lot of motion for the Lions. They're going to try to get a sense of if it's a man, is it zone, because we kind of have a sense of what they're going to like based on how far the third down situation is. For example, if you're getting into a third and shorter situation, look for, again, screens. If they show cover 0 looks, Lions will go out there and they'll throw some screens. Some of our biggest plays came on that, right? Empty it out. They're showing cover 0. Boom. We just got the numbers. Let's see if we can get a big play on that. And occasionally we did. Craig Reynolds had a big play on that last time we played this team. We get a lot of those cover 1 looks as well defensively. A lot of that man coverage looks. So set up some pick plays if you can off of that. The matchup really there became, again, it was Levante David versus our guy, Sam Laporta. And a lot of times it was a back-and-forth battle. We needed most. Sam Laporta came through. At times David won that matchup. That's going to be something as well in this game. We saw Lions utilize a lot of the flat and corner route on top of each other so that the flat route would take the corner. It was like, okay, we got the leverage here with our tight end. We did that twice. First time it worked, second time it didn't. So that's going to be something the Lions are going to have to utilize, as well as if you're talking matchups specifically, number 1 against Jamel Dean, we saw the Lions starting to utilize some rollouts against this team. They also try to get some one-on-ones with shots with Jameson Williams. For me, I think the biggest thing with Dean is he's physical, but he also is not great at the top of the route. He's not great with change direction. So if you can have a play that takes a little bit longer to develop against him at the top of the route, he's a little bit sluggish, he's a little bit high cut. So I think Jameson on that matchup, we scored a touchdown last time we played this team, but guess what? You want to move all these pieces? Okay, we're going to change tempo, right? Now all of a sudden you're going to roll your safeties into cover 3, but guess what? You're doing that, but we're just going to take advantage of it. We're going to quickly get to the line, we're going to snap, you're going to roll, but it's going to be too late. He's going to hit a corner route and have a touchdown.
So I love the stacks. I love the bunches. You can get a sense man zone and then let things kind of play out. But at the same time, having these quick little high low routes, just like New Orleans did here, something we also utilize, getting the ball out of our hands quickly. Carolina, we saw it as well. You can find these matchups. And again, like we did with our big shot play, you can almost exploit their movement and also the fact that they like to blitz with screen.
So it takes little things like that against this team to almost take advantage of all the movement they want to do defensively against it. For matchup, that's going to be one to watch with Sam Laporta. I like the St. Brown matchup. I just like that matchup against everybody, but this is specifically a matchup against a physical slot where it's going to take route strength. That's going to be crucial, and I think that obviously I trust Amon-Ra St. Brown. We just saw it this last week, the kind of route strength that he has.
If I was Tampa Bay, I would come in and play a lot more man and just see if the Lions can beat us one-on-one, especially with a banged-up Sam Laporta. With that being said, though, the zone coverage beater was a lot of times Josh Reynolds for us, and you can just see by the design, quarters coverage here, where the Lions are able to set up kind of the route detail with Josh Reynolds leads outside, you push the slot, then you get behind the backer, then here comes the underneath route, and all of a sudden he takes it away, and Josh Reynolds sits there wide open. Josh was massive for zone holes in this game because of his catch radius. He'll be big again if they continue to lean zone. But if I was Tampa, I would think, especially on third downs, I'd be playing a lot of man against this team. His response will likely then be clusters and stacks and Jameson Williams to push over top to try to force zone coverage and open up some of the second level throws.
Bigger flaws as a coverage defense is man coverage. They do give up explosive plays in man coverage, and I think once you get outside their linebacker core, that's where you can have some question marks specifically, because while I do like their back end, I don't love it. I think in man coverage, they can be exposed more often than not. So for me, it's really about the Lions doing the best thing that they can to kind of simplify and find some sort of run game to also help out some of their play action attack as well. It took a lot of creativity to get some of the shot plays that they could have.
Half the battle against the secondary feels like it's just getting off the line cleanly. So again, that's where you kind of stack bunch, motion, condensed splits. That way you can get guys off the line cleanly in this game. And again, I think the Lions have shown the ability to do that.
The Lions will play off what they expect of when they align, what kind of coverage that they're going to get defensively from this team. From their pressure sense, again, they just have a lot of nice little pressure pieces. The interior is going to be key in this game because of Vita Vea, because of Kalijah Kancey dealing with quickness, so that's going to be something to keep an eye on. Same thing for tackles, too, because at time Taylor Deckers will lose stuff. Penei Sewell can lose against speed rushers, and that's really what this team is kind of just made up of. So for the most part, I like our matchup there, but that's really where the matchup comes into play for me, is that you're dealing with a lot of speed rushers in this game, and the Lions did a pretty nice job of limiting actually the blitzing impact. I thought it was more so about the coverage movement that became the issue, more so than how much they were blitzing. That really wasn't the issue to me last time I watched this matchup. In this one, the key players defensively, it's going to be guys at the safety position. It's going to be the single high safety. It's going to be Kirby. It's going to be Iffy. It's going to be CD Dews. It's going to be those guys in the flats, but specifically, if they're trying to go heavy personnel, take their shots, right? Whether we're in Tampa 2, which we may be occasionally, but specifically cover 3, those guys being able to find routes. It's about finding routes in coverage against this team. It's about spacing. Alex Anzalone, Jalen Reese-Maybin, those two guys, specifically Alex, though, underneath coverage, they're going to be key. They're going to take the running back, right? I do think against this team, like what we saw with Philly when they kind of ran a pick play for the safety and they ended up scoring a touchdown just on a crossing route, really could change their coverage, was third down when they were playing man, is that they could still roll safeties, and that specifically could get Baker in a spot where he didn't know which safety to really key on, and it could take away some of the pick plays that they wanted to create. So I do expect to continue to see that from the Lions, which leads to the final matchup, which is the outside corners against these outside receivers. I think for the Lions, they would love to keep 2 safeties as much as possible to help them out. They understand that that's kind of the biggest strength of this offense.
Now, the one little thing I will point to this, again, cornerback tackling. We talk about kind of the jet touch pass and the end arounds, but man, one of their things, especially against 2 deep, is they'll have a shot on one side and on the backside they'll run a screen. We do something similar as well. Usually against single high, we can get a sense of like, okay, if the safety drifts this way, we'll throw the screen. If not, we're going to take the shot play one-on-one. But with that, 2 high safeties, if you do play that, they're going to throw screens, kind of like they did with RPOs versus us the first time around. Now we're seeing a lot of receiver screens. We're seeing running back screens. The tackling out there.
It comes down then to, okay, with one less body in the box, can you stop the run? Against cover 4, you should be able to play aggressive there, but with the RPOs, or whether that's the play action shot fix by pulling an offensive lineman, these safeties are critical, right? Whether that's spacing or also saying, hey, I can't let a guy just run past me. It got tipped up and picked off last time, but you can't let a guy just run past you. You understand where the safety wants to give run support, but you can't let those things happen. So safeties are key in this one. Then offensively, Sam Laporta and that matchup being a little bit maybe healthier this week. Jahmyr Gibbs for the rushing attack, but also I would say Sam Laporta for run blocking as well. Keep that in mind. Jahmyr Gibbs and those guys in pass protection, specifically against a team that likes to blitz, but specifically for him, it's rushing the football. And then Jonah Jackson, I think he makes a massive impact coming back in this game, but specifically as well pass protection. Those guys, Logan Hall, quick winners, Kalijah Kancey, Vita Vea, those guys are going to be thrown into that mix a lot for pass protection. So especially if you can't run, you're going to see those guys are going to have to pass protect a lot in this game. This is one of those games where I think, the Lions are going to have to get some help. They're going to have some short fields, maybe a big punt return from Donovan Peoples-Jones, maybe a big kick return, so special teams help as well. When the turnover battle is going to be massive, we did last time. We have to do that again in this game to give ourselves the best shot. It will be a little bit of a struggle, but I think it's great that the conditions are good, and you just can't really ever doubt that Ben Johnson's going to find some that he wants to expose. In this one, I think the Lions put up a little bit more points. I'm going to say they put up 24 in this game, but defensively, I think that Tampa Bay's in a better spot. I think indoors, they're going to be able to create some things offensively. They're in a better spot, but the key does come back to as simple as this: stop the run over everything else. And for that, I think the Lions give up a little bit more points. It's an explosive offense, so Lions are going to want to limit that because they don't want game-breaking plays, right? I think the key for them defensively would be saying, okay, look, the one thing we can't do is allow game-breaking plays to this offense, right? We understand that this is a team that they have game-breakers all across the board, so they want to keep 2 high as much as possible. So run defense, as well as not giving up the game-breaking play. I think the Lions do give up a little bit more points, but I think they're able to limit the explosive that are allowed, and that feels like the difference in this game. I say they score 16 in this one, and the Lions win this one by 8. 24-16, Lions move on to the NFC Championship to face San Fran or the Packers. If it's the Packers at home, it's San Fran, it's on the road. I don't really care who it is. I just want to go to the NFC Championship game. With that being said, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you, Prop, for watching, and I'm out.